Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, I have one question on standardization, because it's mentioned everywhere, and it's a basis for certain things. But I mean, how do you go ahead in India and South Africa as well about imposing practically these standards? Because standards are built but not used, and this is the experience, I think, from.
I think you've picked up the very right thread. We had a national standard right back in 1991 about text storage in ISKI, but it could never be implemented in spirit. And people build their data into the proprietary fonts. So that data is still held up within organizations, and people are not moving towards Unicode. Now Unicode, we have got it announced through the e-governance that whatever e-governance solutions are built, they will compulsorily follow the Unicode and the OpenType font standard. Legacy is there, which will move on gradually into the Unicode because of the need, because today Unicode has become a default standard of storage. And from OpenType fonts, we have built 22 language CDs, one CD for each language containing OpenOffice, Firefox browser, completely localized, Thunderbird email client, completely localized. And we have distributed OpenType fonts on those CDs. So promotional measures are there. Then we are participating in the W3C initiative, and all the W3C standards underneath support Unicode. So we are trying to figure out whatever deficiencies are there in the standards, because standards are mostly Latin-centric. For Europe, probably those standards already address the needs. But for India, all the W3C standards need to be revisited. And from the internationalization perspective, we have to internationalize the standard itself. So we are trying to do those things. We have just started with this agenda, which is a very long agenda. And then on the speech side, we are trying to verify the IPA, because IPA exists. But for Indian languages, we seem to have some extra phonetic symbols. So we have done this IPA verification scientifically for one language called Bangla, in which we have identified 4 additional symbols. Now we are trying to verify it for 4 to 5 more Indian languages. And once we are convinced that these symbols are required, then we'll approach IPA also for addition of those symbols. So some of these basic enabler task is happening on the standards, which will definitely help the researchers in the long run.
If I could say something about standardization from a linguistic perspective, all of these languages, their orthographies are very much standardized in any case. The problem which we have with the languages at this point in time is the so-called adoptives that are coming into the language from English. Yes, it's not loan words. We don't give it back. In any case, it has to be phonologized, and the problem is that's being done very ad hoc in the publishing industry, etc. Even so that on the Zulu page, web page of the Constitution of South Africa, the word cabinet, ikabineti, is written in 4 different formats. And those are things that obviously have implications for spelling checkers, etc., which have already been developed by South Africans for Microsoft, for instance, as well as for other open source as well. But then again, also trying to cooperate within TC37, also as a means of standardization.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Hans.
So I have a question mainly to the representatives from South Africa and India, but actually what Jeremy said about the Welsh situation is maybe not too distant even. Yesterday it was pointed out that one way of arguing for the support of smaller languages would be to say they are very small and per capita it would be too expensive. And then it was pointed out, no, this is not a very good line of, that's not, because then you get people thinking about, oh, why should we pay for others and so on and so on. So and especially, but if you do this argumentation from a different line that was suggested yesterday by the Lithuanian delegate, namely to say that the costs that you save by addressing this problem of treating the languages and taking care of language boundaries together. Yeah, this is so immense, this cost saving, that you do it in a systematic and organized way. This is so the communal costs, not discussing who pays for what, yeah, but the total communal cost would be just much, much smaller. Do you have already the same line of argumentation within your own countries? Because you probably also have to treat languages that are much smaller than others, yeah? And so do you have the same line of reasoning, or do you have already figures on that? And then we could maybe jump from that to what to the line of reasoning that Jeremy said, namely, if we treat also many of these European languages in a big bunch, yeah? Not calculate any costs individually, yeah, for treating them, but say that's a big communal thing, and we cannot afford to leave anyone out, and we cannot afford to treat them separately. Yeah? So maybe to Swaran and Justus, do you have any figures of that? Do you need to argue along these lines?
Thank you. Yes, Hans. In South Africa, we do have, as you say, a variation of the groups, comprising about 25 million people in the Nguni group, as to Venda and Tsonga, which is less than 1 million people. And but it's a very with us, it's a very political sensitivity. There's lots of political sensitivities, and therefore, at this point in time, the idea is basically to fund across the board for all of these languages. Although sometimes it's not that what's the word I'm looking for? It's not that cost effective. But the arguments are made on human language, on human specifically on the human rights. Sorry, so purely on human rights. That's the factor at this point in time. But as I say, it's split right across the border.
For us, there is a clear demarcation. Hindi being the official language of the country, it's spoken around 10 states and 2 union territories. So that becomes 40 to 50% of the Indian population uses Hindi. So that definitely becomes the first priority of funding. And also Hindi being Devanagari based, and there are 10 more languages which are Devanagari based. So whatever work is done for Hindi becomes a base for extending it to at least 8 to 9 languages. So this is the logical reasoning. Then when we are funding beyond Hindi, then we do take special care that we fund at least 1 or 2 languages from each region, south, west, east, so that whenever the political sensitivities are there, we can justify at least we are trying to pick 1 or 2 languages from each region. Then we have a special focus on the northeastern region, which is less developed and is not so much connected with the mainland because of the geographical conditions and other factors, and is lesser developed area. So government always has given a special, 10 to 15% of the fund needs to be definitely put into those areas. So we're trying to seed groups into those areas. Then funding also gets governed while selecting the languages by the fact that whether these institutions in those states, because we have populations within the states of those languages, so whether those scientists are available and the institutions are available who are willing to work with us. So these are some of the very complex factors. Right now, this being completely a nationally funded program, so this becomes, all these factors become the basis of planning. There are no other compelling reasons, but if there are institutions who are willing to come forward and work, we definitely give them priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we should close. Still one question, okay. And then, but this will be the last question.
That will be a very short comment. Khalid Shukri from the European Language Resources Association. I just want to highlight and point that a few years ago, both the Catalan government and the Basque government decided to list the most important technologies, language technologies, and decide to spend as much money as needed to develop a large number of resources that are publicly available for most of them, including things for machine translation, for speech recognition in different environments. And these are really good examples of how national or regional government should act in order to support the language of the region. And I think that many of the big European countries don't have such a high-level program.
It was just a statement. It was, okay, thank you very much. So the discussion is closed here. Of course, as you understand, there is an opening for collaboration and interest of collaboration, so you can continue the discussion later on, but I would like to ask you to join me in thanking the panel for this interesting discussion. Thank you.